YouTube.
There we go. It's
There.
up.
YouTube.
Okay. All right. So, Sue, do you want to call the meeting to order at 1:05?
I'd like to call the meeting to order at 1:05 on May 11th,
Okay.
2020.
And I'm going to share the agenda. So Sue, if you could just read this, it's lengthy, but if you could read this for us to start off the meeting, that would be great.
Sure. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GLC 30, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Southborough Youth Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Southborough's website. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen to the meeting may do so in the following manner. And do I need to put that down too, I guess?
Yeah.
The southborough.com remote meetings. No in-person attendance of meetings of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technology means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will put on Southborough's website an audio or video recording transcript or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after this meeting.
Great. Okay, and then I know we need to, by roll call, do attendance.
Okay, Marguerite Landry present.
Sarah Mike is present.
Leslie Haddon, present.
Beth Dombacher, present.
Sue Butka, present.
Did you get me? I'm here.
Yep.
Okay, so that's Susan Byer. Okay, so this is different than usual, ladies,
goodness.
right? Actually, I'm going to pull the agenda back up so that we can follow along with what we had intended to discuss. I know Sarah Mikas had sent out the minutes from the March 5th meeting for everyone to review, so.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure. I presume that I'm taking notes on this meeting too, right? All right.
Yeah.
So if because of lags and audio and stuff, I might ask you to repeat yourself if I don't get things. So don't think I'm crazy. Okay.
Can I, if there's no emendations, can I move to accept the minutes for the meeting of March 5th, 2020?
Second.
Third.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Go back to the screen.
Landry, aye. We got to do it by name. Marguerite Landry, aye.
Beth
Sue Butka,
Dombacher.
aye.
Susan Byer, aye.
Sarah
it
Mike is aye.
Can we go back to the screen, the view of all the gallery photos? Thank you.
So
Leslie,
I
do you
said
approve the
aye.
minutes?
Oh,
Heard
yes,
me. I will say it
absolutely.
again.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Beth Dombacher, aye. Susan Byer, aye.
Okay. I think we got everybody.
I think so.
Okay, great. Leslie, is it okay if I go back to the share screen so we can follow the agenda?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I don't need to stay here, but so program and service updates. I'm very happy to have Shannon and Megan on the call with me so we can all speak on behalf of the department on what we've been trying to do. And we've been trying to keep you all updated and kind of just having to respond quickly to or adjust to the needs of our current clients and to the community. But so we continue to provide counseling services to residents that we were already working with through telehealth. We managed to create accounts for each of us who are providing counseling individually on a HIPAA compliant platform called doxy.me. And for the most part, those of us providing this service have continued with the majority of our clients. The sad news, which happens to us every year, is that our 2 graduate level interns are going to be leaving us in a couple weeks' time. Both of them have roughly 12 to 15 clients each, which means that Megan and I, for anybody that really ought to continue getting support, is going to need to transition onto our caseload, or we will work very hard to try to help them find somebody through their insurance, which is really our first line of action. Fortunately, providers are pretty flexible right now, because most of the time they have to try to fit in appointments after work and after school hours. But because individuals have more flexibility right now, and the providers themselves have more flexibility right now, that's great. So there's more likelihood that they'd be able to find somebody through insurance. And then the other benefit right now is most insurances are waiving co-payments for people to see someone through their insurance, which means that another barrier is gone for folks who have a hard time affording that ongoing co-payment. So I would say in terms of our counseling services, it's been manageable. Megan, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, I agree. Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing still probably a little over 50% of my clients via telehealth. So that's been, and I haven't had anyone new yet. So so far it's been manageable for sure.
We have offered what we were kind of referring to as screening phone calls. Initially, it was going to be hard for us to adequately assess someone new and take them on as a client. But after consulting with other youth and family service departments in the area, we've all sort of determined, since we don't know how long this is going to go on for, we haven't turned anybody away, but that if somebody new wanted to come onto our caseload, we would have to adjust to providing an initial assessment with those individuals and determining what their needs are and how to best serve them. So we did reach out, to the community to offer clinical consultation phone calls, screenings, if parents or anybody was concerned about it themselves or a family member, but we haven't received any of those calls. And then we also reached out to offer some support groups, just realizing personally that we found it helpful to connect with people who were in similar situations and just, even commiserate about how challenging this time is. And we wanted to be able to provide some support by having a professional in the room to offer some guidance if anybody was really struggling, or just support the group in general. And we had offered that for various different age groups, from young children all the way up through senior citizens, and we didn't have any bites for that either. So I think right now, I was just having a conversation with somebody earlier today that I think initially people have really gone into self-preservation mode and kind of, we've all been cut off from each other physically, but that I think also mentally, emotionally, people have needed to sort of turn inward towards their own families and, and so as of right now, things are sustainable in terms of mental health support. Once Nena and Elizabeth leave in a couple of weeks, that might change for Megan and I to be able to sustain that. But again, we'll try to refer folks out as best we can to outside providers. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, my kids are watching a superhero movie downstairs, which is extra bassy, so sorry about
They're
that.
not doing their homework.
Well, actually, it's a professional development day for our district, so
Oh.
there's no school class today, which is nice. Beth, were you gonna say something?
Oh, I'm just saying we can't hear the kids or the TV.
Oh,
at all.
good. That's good. That's good.
Sarah, I have a question regarding community outreach. You said you reached out to the community for individual support or group support. How was that done?
Sure. Well, so very early on, I think it was the week that the first full week that we were closed, we drafted a letter that outlined all of our services. And I think I shared that with you guys. It was back in early March. So,
Okay.
So we posted that on our website so that anybody that was looking that was the first thing that they saw. We also shared that out through the town. And at the time, this is still the case, but the town was being very vigilant to have all of the information coming from town departments go through one channel of communication. So we weren't sharing things via my South Borough or out directly to the schools at that point. We shared that through town administration. So the letter that we had written went out through town administration and was also posted on the town website. Since then, though, we have, as the longer this has gone on, we've shared things out directly to my South Borough and to the schools about the services we're offering. And updated the town administration about our offerings. So the specifics on the support groups and any other workshops we've had or mental health services have gone out to our usual channels, which is all online, unfortunately, but that's really one of the only ways we can communicate right now.
Are the police department and fire department aware of these kinds of services? Because they might be the ones who are connecting with the people who might be in need or in some kind of crisis.
I hope they are.
Okay.
I can't speak for them. They do know about us and we've made them aware of our services, but I don't know, how much it's on their radar given how busy I'm sure they are. But, it doesn't hurt to reach out to them again and remind them that we're here. I know Neil Aspazi is especially aware that we're around, and I've been having conversations with the fire chief, so.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just worried that people wouldn't know where to go if they were in a domestic abuse situation, unless and it might not be the usual customers, because people are under different circumstances and probably wouldn't go to the town website. I'm always surprised how few people know about our services. And because most of them haven't required them, but I think times have changed, and I think we need to be very vigilant that the people know we're out there. And I don't know how to get the message out there,
Well, I have good news. It's exciting. And maybe I can screen share this with you also. This is in draft form, pretty close to being done. Hold on, So I have been tasked with putting together, so the Southborough Community Fund came forward and asked what they could help with. They have money and said, what can we help fund? And we, after putting our heads together, realized further communication would be really helpful because not everybody is using the internet or has access to the internet. And frankly, some people, again, for self-preservation's sake and sanity, are trying to limit the amount of time they're spending on screens. So with town administration, the Board of Selectmen, the Southborough Community Fund, we worked together to put this townwide mailer out. It has to go to the selectmen for approval and to the Southborough Community Fund for review. But we've got information here about the Southborough Food Pantry, the Southborough Emergency Fund. You all will get this, being Southborough residents.
This is great. This is good news.
Yeah.
Great.
It's a win-win-win, because the community fund really wanted to help fund something, and we weren't in a position of really identifying a need that money would help with until, I think it was Vanessa Hale who said, what about a townwide mailer? So we have information about veteran services. Here's some information about us, and Sarah, to your point, we did include some information about domestic violence and substance abuse resources here.
Oh, good.
That's not a service we're providing, but we have resources including some text lines, because we recognize that individuals who are in domestic violence situations are not necessarily going to have the ability to make a phone call. So
Good point.
yeah, so we've got that information, what to do in a psychiatric emergency. We have information for seniors. This is a little lengthier because this is the population more specifically that might not be using the internet as much. And then information about town meeting, the town election, that taxes are being deferred right now. And then this is just the
Oh, this is great.
postage information.
When are they going to approve this?
Hopefully today.
Okay.
But, well, I don't mean that. I mean, I'm going to be sending it out today. I'm just waiting for one last piece from Jim Hegarty about the town election time frame, to make sure that goes in there also. Let me stop sharing here. So once I have that piece, the next step is that it goes to the selectmen, the community fund, and to quick print to make sure that it works logistically.
Mm-hmm.
And then it moves on to the next step, which is to get printed and mailed out. And I don't know the logistics of how that works. That's when it kind of leaves my hands and goes on to town administration to deal with those logistics.
Do
So-
they have a timeline for a drop date for the mail? Have they?
I
No.
think it depends on the next step of making sure the community fund gives their stamp of approval, and the selectmen are okay with the content.
Mhm.
But the intention is for every
Every resident, and actually, I think all businesses too.
That's
Great.
Yeah.
that's wonderful. That's
And
really
you had made mention, Sarah, that there's a clause in there about if you would like to donate.
Yeah, I was just going to add that. So initially, that information wasn't going to be, so the community fund wanted to pitch in some money for something. And when we found out what the cost of postage was going to be and the cost of printing, the community fund came back and said, we'll pay for the postage, but we won't do also the printing. So then we had $1,500 that we had to figure out how to pay for. So the town was going to find the money to do that. The problem with that being a town entity, it's a conflict of interest, of course, for us to be fundraising. And so they wanted to take out all of the information about where to donate. So I quickly skimmed through it, but for the food pantry, there's information about what to do if you need food. And then there's another section that says if you want to donate, what to do there. Same thing with the emergency fund. So the town wanted us to take out that information, given that the town was going to be paying for this mailer. But we were able to come up with an alternative. So the food pantry, the Friends of the Council on Aging, and Friends of the Southborough Youth Commission are going to cover each a third of the cost of the printing, which allows that information to stay in, which I really think is very beneficial because we get as many inquiries about how to help as we do where to get help at times. And I think that, you know, people have expressed frustration over not having a central place to find that information. So this really will spell all of that out if people want to make a contribution.
Sarah, will there be a clearinghouse for inquiries? And because I get probably, you know, 5 people asking me every day, you know, how can I help out the community? And obviously I say, well, our organization's a great one, but you know, some want to do donations to everybody's confused, and it'd be great if there was a person in the town office that could act as a clearinghouse and say, okay, you know, this organization needs help, whatever. Maybe people have specifics, but I think that it would be great if the town could manage some of this. And
well, the town unfortunately can't because it's a conflict of interest on that end. If anybody wanted to make a donation, it has to go through Friends of groups. So
donation of labor, you know, like some people want to like help at the food.
Yeah,
they would call directly.
I know that there isn't really a volunteer effort because of the risks associated with, you know, we can't Corey check people, and we can't necessarily send them to seniors' houses without that ability. So I know there's a CERT team that's helping with some of those volunteer efforts. So the only things that are listed on there, because I think they're not necessarily wanting people to go out and be volunteering with labor quite yet, is how to, if you want to donate food to the food pantry, or if you want to donate funds to either the emergency fund or the food pantry, here's how to do that. And both of those, the food pantry is not a town department.
Yeah, and they're working on the strict guidelines at the food pantry. Like anything that's donated has to be quarantined for so many days, and they can't come in contact with the people who are getting the food. They have to, they're taking orders and packaging it and then leaving it in a certain place for the people to pick up. And so I could see how it would get complicated if they had people just wanting to help, and they have very strict guidelines at the moment anyway.
Right. It does say, you know, for most up-to-date information on making a donation, to go to the food pantry Facebook page. So I think that is because we're so limited on the amount of space that we have, and as you could see, it's already pretty tight. So we gave.
I think the flyer will be very effective, and I think a lot of people will be happy to have access to a list of resources.
I just hope they can put every effort into getting that out the door as soon as possible. I know you have done your part.
Really quick.
I did emphasize to town administration this morning that there is information about a June 1st tax deferment. Hopefully we don't want to get it out after June 1st, because that would be frustrating, I'm sure, and counterproductive, but I feel confident that we'll be able to do it. So
I'm just waiting for 1 second to plug in my iPad. I'll be right back.
Sure, no problem. Let's see.
So thank you for telling us about that, Sarah, because I did see it posted on my Southborough, and so I was going to ask you about it anyway. So I'm so glad that that's happening. It's kind of overdue anyway, you know. So it's a really
it's logistically challenging to gather all of the information from the various groups and have it screened and reviewed by several different groups. So it takes a little longer than one would expect, but we're closer. We're closer.
I feel like that flyer will end up being put up on, you know, a cabinet door or inside a pantry, just as a resource.
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
It's and it's nice because it's going to be cardstock, so it'll be a little thicker and
Wonderful.
yeah.
And how much money is the Southborough Community Fund donating to the emergency fund at this point in time?
They're not donating anything to the emergency fund at this point in time. They've already awarded grant funds to the emergency fund, and we have a fairly healthy budget still remaining
Oh, okay.
for the emergency fund, but they wanted to come forward and do something additional. And so that's where we came up with the idea to do this
Okay.
mailer.
It's a great idea. I can't
Yeah.
wait to see it in my mailbox.
Yes, I'm excited for that too. Hopefully we get it out the door ASAP. What else do we want to say, ladies, Shannon and Megan, about services we've been providing? Shannon's been extra busy. Do you want to talk about what you've been doing?
I guess just to this conversation, in addition to the mailer, I've been trying to reach out to as many groups as I possibly can to get the word out. I've worked with the nurses in the schools. I've contacted all of the churches, the schools themselves to make sure that they're getting the information out. This week, I'd like to actually ask the schools what kind of communication they're sending out to their families to make sure that it's a message that's going out even on a weekly basis as a reminder that we're here and available. Emergency services aren't super busy yet. I feel like there's a pretty tight safety net that's out there right now. I'm anticipating and getting ready for when those safety nets start to come away and figuring out how to support people when that happens. So
What
Are
do
you
you
talking
think?
about like when unemployment runs out and that kind of thing?
So there's, we have had conversations about that. There are different pots of money out there, one being the Foundation for Metro West is collecting and soliciting a lot of donations that anywhere in Metro West can ask for donations. And I think they've given out almost, I don't remember what I told you guys, almost
Over $1 million already. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's readily available. Yeah. So looking at things like that, just learning as much as I possibly can about unemployment benefits and, anything that I can do to support people. So.
Yeah, Shannon is like a investigative reporter. She's doing research all day, every day, and constantly coming up with more resources, which she's an incredible asset to our team for that reason.
The
And
frustration with unemployment benefits is real. I mean, it's a hard system to navigate. Take it from me, because I went on unemployment 2 weeks ago and I have yet to see a benefit. There's no phone number. It keeps telling me I have to reopen my case every week. And it's really frustrating. And so, and there's nowhere to go. I mean, the actual,
Right.
Applying is not too hard. You do have to supply a lot of documentation, but I could see people getting really frustrated, not getting the benefits. And there's no way, like, it would be nice if, like an office like ours or somebody had a direct line to, maybe you call your congressman, I don't know, but I think you will get a lot of people that are, having trouble navigating the system.
And I think it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
Like, we haven't seen it all yet
Right.
as far as job losses and
Mhm.
people being furloughed and
I mean,
Yeah.
I think a year from now, people might be really hurting, some people.
I agree. I
That's
think
right.
financial stuff, people are living off a lot of savings right now, especially like in our community, but at some point in time, those savings are not going to be there. And also, there's a lot of things that are gonna percolate up, the kids who don't have anything to do over the summer, the college kids that are stressed out about whether they go back. It's just I think it's gonna be overwhelming. And then all the clinical staff suffering from PTSD and all kinds of stuff. So I think we need to be prepared in every possible way.
Mhm. Yep, as prepared as we can be, given
Yes.
the resources that we have available.
Well, and that's the tough part. I mean, really, now is when we need more money and more help.
Exactly.
And this is, it's going to show that public health organizations like ours that provide, outreach to the community, other than emergency medical care, is incredibly important. I think we've realized that we have grossly underfunded infrastructure like ours in a town, public
Mhm.
infrastructure. And hopefully this will be a lesson learned, and that we will get the money we need to
Mhm.
expand in the future.
Mhm.
So is this a segue into item 3, which is budget discussion?
Well, before we go there, I did want to ask, I think it's useful for those of us who are employees of the department to hear from you guys if there's anything that you're hearing that, because again, with so many barriers to being connected to people directly, we're doing our best to make sure that we're providing for the community what's needed. So we're continuing with our mental health services. We're continuing with really short-term triage work. We have had parenting workshops continue, which has been fantastic. We've offered support groups, but are there things, and Shannon's work in providing resources and navigating social service and benefit programs has been exceptional. And is there anything?
Is that information being shared publicly or just to your clients when asked?
All that information about what I just reviewed?
Resources that Shannon has been researching.
Yep, that's part of the mailer too. That's
okay.
listed out in there as far as what we're able to offer. But yeah, it's all spelled out everywhere we've been able to advertise.
So I think that a lot of people are worried and have fears of the unknown in the immediate future, especially people who have kids. And people are already beginning to wonder if even there's going to be school in September.
Mhm.
So I think that's really what people are like most nervous, is just like the unknown of how everything's going to unfold, and the second surge of it all. And that's what I'm hearing, really.
Mhm. I think the sustainability too of being able to, everybody's wearing thin, and so it's very nerve-wracking to not have, everything's so unknown. And how do you sustain this day after day when you're already wearing very thin?
I know my neighbors who all have high school kids. They're seeing it like starting last week. The kids are having a very, very hard time, especially the girls, I think, because there is no end date. And I feel like it's just like they were fine for a while and they were doing a very short school day. And now, the neighborhood doesn't get together anymore and they don't see their friends. And it's like, how much more of this can you take?
Right.
If you could just say by September 1st, things will be better, and you really can't say that to them yet.
But to speak, I have a high schooler and I receive on Canvas all the emails from the teachers. And I think the teachers are really doing their part to reach out to the students and offering personal Zoom one-on-one and encouraging them to email them, and recognizing that is an issue and that the kids are struggling and that it's difficult for them to stay motivated. But I think majority of the teachers are really doing their part to do what they can.
Oh, that's great to hear too. That's great.
Yeah.
No, I think the educational services have pivoted, given a very short timeline, in that those services, virtual service, education will improve over time as they get more tools and resources and understand what works and what doesn't work. But I think that what, and I think what the hardest thing is not knowing, and we all are dealing with that. And, I think for young people and also their lack of social connections, I know that is killing me, and even thinking of bending the rules maybe a little bit so I can go have a picnic with a friend or something. It's really hard, and it's going to get harder and harder for these kids. I'm seeing a lot of distress, not to the emergency point or crisis, but some parents of younger children having a difficult time, because that's who I work with every day. And they're trying to pull, as Sarah knows, pull 8-hour days, doing their office work, and then cooking, cleaning, attending to, Zoom meetings and helping kids with homework and stuff. It's a lot to ask.
I can't imagine. I cannot imagine.
I thank my lucky stars every day that my kids are out of school. So yeah, I think that we have some issues, and whether, I think that, a lot of people, as you say, are hunkering down and don't, they're just trying to survive each day. But I think if they knew and felt comfortable with some of the options out there, they might, a Zoom parenting group. I think that's a great idea by different ages. And we need to develop a certain comfort level accessing those resources now, because a lot of people, I don't need them, I don't need them. But I think, it's National Mental Health Awareness Month.
I know, that's crazy.
And,
I think it's crazy, but it's.
Yeah, I think that, somehow we need to help with the stigma associated with getting help. Right now. So I don't know how we do that virtually.
Yeah. I know I didn't really give a chance for these guys to highlight it, but Shannon and Megan have been working really hard on Mental Health Awareness Month initiatives also. And we have some further discussion about things that we might do later in the month. But they've been doing a really nice job with social media campaign, sending out a lot of messages of hope, and which is really what we need right now, because we've been having conversations about how even resource sharing has been triggering for people, and creating some further trauma, just knowing how many resources are out there, and just how in need we are right now. So we're trying to sort of flip the script a little bit and have some really positive and uplifting information if we can. In the interest of time, I'd love to have some further discussion about item 3, as Marguerite had brought up earlier, which is budget discussion. Let me just make sure that's where we were at. Yeah, and any other business which shall properly come before the board. So I had heard, I'm just going to back up, the town administration, or the town finance team, which consists of Mark Purple and Brian Valentine, asked all town department heads to participate in an exercise, which was to take our last approved, or our last supported budget. So if everybody can recall, our last supported budget by the Board of Selectmen included a full-time admin assistant. So to take our last supported budget and adjust it for a 2% tax increase and a 0% tax increase. So all department heads were asked to participate in this exercise, and that they were going to then share the information with the selectmen. So in participating in that, the bottom line was that at a 2% tax increase, I was able to take, I didn't have to touch the salaries at all. So my salary, Shannon's, Megan's, and the full-time admin assistant would not need to be changed at a 2% tax increase. I would need to take out, it was roughly about $3,500 from somewhere in our budget. Bless you, Beth.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
was able to do that from the rest of our operating budget. So some of those funds would come out of contracted services, prioritizing the need for my position and for our department to continue to consult with Rona Kierans, who is my clinical supervisor now, which I had spoken to you guys about previously and you had approved. That has really become very important to us. Megan and I have been participating in weekly discussions with her about our cases and about sort of adjusting our services to fit the needs of the community and exercise best practices. So we'd be able to continue consulting with her, but we would really have not much money left for anything else. And also taking some money out of mileage would be the other area, which actually would work out okay. This year, bless you, Megan. Anyone else? Anyone else? This year, my caseload has been less and I have been traveling to the schools less. That just happens to be the way it is right now. So with less mileage, less money in our budget for mileage, we would have to ensure that that continue to be the case. So I would have to continue, and maybe even Megan too, to only see clients at our offices versus traveling to the schools as much. And we'd have to also consider participating in trainings and meetings remotely versus doing in-person travel, excuse me. So, so that's what it would look like at a 2% tax increase. For a 0% tax increase, it would we'd have no choice but to take some money out of the salary section of our budget. Again, I wouldn't have to touch mine, Megan, or Shannon's salaries, but the only way, I think it was around 9,500 that we'd have to take out of the budget for a 2% tax increase. So we'd have to transition from a
Excuse me,
full-time-
Sarah.
Yeah.
Sarah, wasn't the 9,500 with a 0% tax?
Yes,
increase?
did I say 2%? I apologize. 0% tax increase. Thank you for that clarification. Yes, so for a 0% tax increase, it's about $9,500 that would need to come out of the budget. And it would basically annihilate our operating expenses if I took it from there and didn't touch the salaries. So we would have to transition from one full-time admin assistant to part-time admin assistants in order to achieve that.
To one part-time or two part-time?
Two part-time.
Two part-time. Okay, thanks.
Going from one full-time to two part-time took out around 6,300. And then I was able to take the rest of it from our operating budget, just like I did for the 2%. So I added a memo along with those submissions saying, you know, we're participating in this exercise. Here's where we'd have to take it, but it's really not ideal for us. And here's why: for continuity of the department, for providing critical services to help protect the safety and well-being of our residents. You know, we really need this position to be not fragmented into multiple people. It's not ideal for the type of work that we do, and so on. And so I got a phone call from from Brian Valentine and Vanessa on Thursday or Friday last week. They are wondering if, so they have a proposal, sort of a counter, what's the word I'm looking for? A counter offer.
Somewhat.
So they're proposing combining some positions. They are proposing taking, so recreation has a part-time admin assistant. Her name's Denise. They're proposing taking that position. I'm not sure they're proposing Denise specifically, but they're proposing taking the part-time admin assistant position and moving it over to the Council on Aging. They've had a position that they've had trouble filling for a while. So that was step one of the proposal. And then they were talking about taking the full-time position that I believe that we were asking for and sharing it between recreation and our department. So it would be a 50-50 share of the admin assistant position. But they said in all likelihood, our department would end up utilizing this person more than 50%, given the tasks or the need that we have versus the need that recreation has.
Could there be a confidentiality issue?
I thought we talked about this. That's not going to work, right? I mean,
Seems bizarre to me.
because of what you guys do, because of what you provide for services. I don't know how that's going to work.
Mhm.
I know we already discussed it. And I know times are much different than they were 2 months ago. But I don't like it.
I don't like it either. You're in the same building, but you're not doing the same thing at all.
No, very different kind of job.
Mhm.
And I thought we were trying to find somebody who might have some level of professional experience, kind of triaging crisis type calls. So,
Right. Yeah,
but
the credentials of somebody doing work for the recreation department is going to look quite different than somebody working for our department.
Yeah. So how did you respond to
How
that?
did you respond?
I said, thank you for the information. I will take it to my board and we'll see what they say.
No.
laughed and upset. We're crying.
Can we vote on that?
It is a counter offer. So I can't advise the board what to do. But I would encourage you to vote according to how you feel. I will say as an employee of the department, as the director of the department, and I'm hoping I'm speaking on behalf of Megan and Shannon also, that wouldn't be ideal for us.
Yeah.
Do you think that the town realizes how busy you guys are going to be? I mean, I think it's going to be terrible in there. It's
I agree.
absolutely terrible. And you not going to, even you not going to schools, you can't, that doesn't work either. That's such a big part of what you guys do.
Mhm.
Because the kids couldn't come to you.
Mhm.
It was easier.
You could,
It was easier to
you
see
could
them.
continue virtual visits with them. I don't know if that's allowed, but
Mhm.
it might be a good way to get around the travel costs. And sometimes the kids like the virtual stuff better.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
less intimidating and you can have a more flexible schedule. But I'm adamant that I think somebody who could be a great admin for us would not really be the person they're looking for at the rec department.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Or other way?
Right.
Mhm.
Do we
Sarah-
need to vote on that, Sarah?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So
Yes.
I move the question. I move that the board reports that we do not support splitting an admin with the recreation department.
Second.
Third.
In favor?
Up, Sarah's in favor.
Oh, yeah, you have to do it by roll call, actually.
Sorry.
Marguerite in favor.
Not,
Leslie?
wait, is it not in favor or in
No,
favor?
I am in favor because the motion says we do not support.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Very good, Marguerite.
Okay, so I vote in favor that we do not support.
I'm in favor of not supporting. Leslie?
Sarah Micus is in favor of not supporting.
Sue Butka, not support.
Susan Thayer, not supporting.
Beth Dornbacher not supporting.
Okay. Okay, so I will make sure I get back to them and let them know where the board stands on that. And
I have, from the way you're describing it, it seems to me, and I'm just going off of what my interpretation of what you just said is, so I really have no other way of knowing. But it seems to me like it's being viewed as simply a receptionist position. And we need somebody that's much more than just a receptionist. So I think that might be, you know, they're thinking we're in the same building and rec needs a receptionist and we need a receptionist, but we need somebody a little bit more skilled.
Yeah, this is first.
Not to put down anyone who's a receptionist, you know, that's a very important job, the face of the organization, but you know, in our case, it's a little bit different because of confidentiality issues and, you know, just all the things that you deal with all the time.
yeah, no, I think that's a good point to highlight is that while we're not going to hire somebody to be an admin in our department who's going to, you know, we're not going to be asking them to do things outside their pay grade, like providing counseling over the phone or anything. However, they do have to possess a skill set that is different than being an admin assistant at, like, you know, the assessor's office.
Right.
It seems though, as though any other town department could share an admin. I mean, I don't know specifically, but because of the nature of what you do and the need for confidentiality, it couldn't work in this scenario. So
I
it's,
think we talked about this
thank you.
before, you know, the fire department and the police department have a dispatcher, right? Well, that's what this person would kind of be like. Not like an admin or a receptionist. That person's going to have to triage the initial call. I just think it can't be a shared position. Leslie, you're right. I think there are departments that definitely could share an admin, but I just think that we're not that department. So.
So maybe they can look at some of the other departments that could share an admin and move the full-time ad to us and reallocate the other department.
There's a kitty visiting. And who is this visitor?
Oh.
and a gentleman too. Hi there.
Welcome to our Zoom.
We didn't mean to ignore you and just say hi to the cat only.
I actually gotta go. I have an appointment, so good break in conversation.
Yes.
Bye.
Yes.
It was nice.
Bye.
Bye, Megan. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for coming.
Bye.
The other thing that I just wanted to highlight that is being tossed around in budget discussions is the prospect of, regardless of what decisions are made, that the part of the budget discussions is about delaying the start of any new positions until January 1st of 2021. Maybe somebody here understands the logistics better than I do about how that provides a cost savings. I guess that understandably, because you're only paying for the position for part of the year versus the whole year. But that is one thing that they're talking about doing. And I think it was just sort of a heads up to us. I don't get the impression that we need to sort of take a stance on how we feel about that. I think we'll just continue to reiterate that the ideal scenario is to have a full-time admin for our department starting on July 1st. And just continue to provide reasons why we think that's the best for the department and for the community.
One more thing on this subject, Sarah.
Mhm.
You had mentioned that the benefits for this position are coming from another town department. And I just want to make sure that doesn't slip through the cracks. If we get this approved, that
Mhm.
benefits will still be in place for this full-time position.
Yep, that I don't, I think it must be the treasurer's office, but all full-time employees, all their benefits come from a different, it's not part of our budget in our line items. And in fact, I think one of the reasons why it was easier, possibly easier to support this position was because there was an elimination of a full-time position from another department prior to this request, similar to what happened with Shannon's position. So it wasn't going to, this is my understanding anyway, is that it wasn't going to be a huge change in terms of the bottom line for the town, because there was another full-time position that was being
Okay, what you're saying is we don't have to worry about that at all.
Right.
It's not in.
Right. It's never, none of my benefits, Shannon's, Megan's, none of that is part of our budget. So it comes from another place.
All right. Very good.
Before we leave the budget,
Yeah.
I'd like to move that the board vote to support a 2% cut and not support a 0% cut.
Okay. So that was with
the
all
0%.
4 positions full-time intact,
Yes.
and the 3,000, roughly 3,500 coming from our operating budget, which is from mileage and from contracted services.
I'd like
Can
to-
we reword that? Because I'm afraid, like, first of all, we're voting, we'd rather not have how do
Either.
I-
Right,
don't
that was
want
the exercise to do that, but that's not
Our
really the
first-
budget.
our
that-
first
Right,
choice,
but-
no cuts. Excuse me, I'm sorry. And then would be the 2% increase and then the no increase. So
Yes.
how do we vote on that?
Wait a minute, I'm out of the meeting. Hold on.
You're still with us.
No, I can't see anything. So here's there we go. Okay.
Oh, no, now she's gone.
Oh,
Marguerite, come back.
Where are you? Oh,
There she is.
Around.
You're on mute though.
I guess I'm making the point that before we vote on the 2% increase versus the no
0.
increase, that we need to be careful, because our first preference is that we don't have a change to the budget that was already
Submitted.
Supported.
Right.
It
Supported.
wasn't approved, but it was supported.
Right.
first choice. So
Exactly. So I think it would be helpful to Sarah if she could go back and say that the board has voted this way on the 4, this way on the 2, and this way on the 0.
okay.
Yes? Are we agreed? that-
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Oh, there's Megan
Megan,
back.
oh, you're muted.
My appointment got canceled, but I just found out.
Welcome.
Oh,
back.
okay. Well, welcome back.
Welcome back.
So why don't we just do this? I'll move that that we support the originally presented budget.
Sure.
Which is yes, the originally presented, which is 4% increase. Okay, so
Hold on, Beth wanted to say something.
Yeah, I'm confused because, well, what if we, so if we vote on that and they think that that's that or nothing, you know,
no, we're
I
going to
mean, I
vote on
don't
all
know.
3. We'll vote on all 3. We'll vote to support the 4, the 2 if we can't get the 4, and the 0 we don't support.
I
How's
mean,
that?
isn't that what it is anyway? I don't,
Well, Sarah needs to go back and say that her board wants this. Do you see what I mean? She has to go back and say the board has voted this way on this matter.
Well, we have a choice. I mean, are they just going to decide as
No,
a,
we have a choice.
okay,
Well, they will move forward with a proposed budget, and the choice boils down to if the board doesn't agree, then it goes to town meeting if there's discrepancies between, but we'll just as a board, you have to reiterate what you support and go back to them, or I'll go back to them with what you
What we vote.
are in favor of.
Okay, so I move that we support the original budget.
Second.
Okay, all
No,
those.
you have to do it by
Yeah.
roll
Yes.
call.
Marguerite Landry, aye.
Sue Butker, yes.
Sarah Micus, aye.
Susan
Les-
Byer. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead,
Oh,
Susan.
Yes.
Leslie has aye. Yes, in favor.
I'm just confused because I don't hear Sarah asking for us to vote on it. Like I don't hear that it's necessary. So I'm confused. Like they asked Sarah to present options, but isn't it kind of out of our hands? Like,
No, it's not. See, we as a board, we tell Sarah what we support, which is a 4 or a 2. And then she goes back to the finance team, which is Brian and Mark, and says, my board says they want a 4, they'll take a 2, but they absolutely reject a 0. And then if Brian and Mark don't support what we're doing, then when it comes to town meeting, we have to hold our budget when it's read out on the warrant, and then we have to speak to the town voters and say we really need a 2 or we really need a 4.
There is a step in between there too, because so Beth, they are asking for the board's response to this. So I do have to go back to them and say how the board voted. But then Mark and Brian themselves may not support it, but the selectmen also might disagree with Mark and Brian. So there's also that step where they, will have their own feelings on what they want to support and what they don't want to. But basically we have to, when they're weighing their decisions, they weigh the board's stance on the budget as well as their own and the selectmen's support or not.
And Beth, if I can just jump in here for a second, the ultimate decision is made by the voters at town meeting, not by the selectmen, not by advisory, and not by the finance team. We try to all get on the same page because we want to be good guys and we want to be part of the team, and we know that the budget is tight. But ultimately, who decides this is the voters at town meeting. So we can say what we want, and even if the selectmen don't like it, or the finance team doesn't like it, or advisory doesn't like it, we can still take it to the voters, and they can say, yes, we want to give the youth and family this particular budget. Do you see what I mean?
yes, I do understand that. Mhm.
I don't even know if we should vote on the 2. I think we should just go back and say that, the board voted that they want the original budget that was submitted. But I don't know how everybody feels about that.
Well, I think that we're gonna need the services. I mean,
Yeah.
I think they're trying to be prudent based on that the tax revenue is coming in later. So right now they don't have funds coming in. And they're just trying to be very prudent about, what the realities are going to be in people's financial situations
Right.
coming into this. I mean, people will, even in this town, will have financial hardship, and whether, a 2% or 4% raise in the taxes, I don't know if it really makes a difference for individual households, what that's like, but I do think they're just trying to be mindful of what people will be able to afford.
I
And
agree. I agree.
but I do think that we are considered part of the public health plan and emergency crisis outreach programs for this community, which are hugely needed right now, and will continue to be needed. So, you know, will people be able to recreate or go to group, you know, group activities? Probably not, you know, and so maybe they need to think about cutting back on other areas that might not actually be, you know, in order. I don't think you're going to be able to do group activities, ping pong and all that stuff.
I think recreation gets most of their budget from the fees they charge.
They do.
Okay.
The only items they have in their budget are salaries. That's
Okay.
it.
All
So
right.
yes, they're gonna take a big hit. I
Yeah.
think we're in the middle of voting.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So we have Marguerite in favor, Sue, Buckham in favor.
Can you put it back on the table though, what it is that you're voting
Yeah,
for,
I
just for
wanted to make-
clarification?
I personally think we need to have another sentence in there or wording that if we had to choose between the 0% increase and the 4% increase, we're in favor of voting for the 0. Wait, no, I'm
No.
sorry. I've got it backwards.
The 4.
I'm all confused.
I do like Marguerite's strategy of voting on all three separately.
All right, let's do
It's
it.
clear.
Okay, so,
All right.
okay, we're in the middle of voting to support the 4%.
Okay, I'll support it.
All right.
Sue Butka, aye.
Leslie Haddon, aye.
Susan Byer, aye.
Sarah Micus, aye.
Is that everybody?
That's everybody.
Okay, so we're good. Now I'm gonna move to support the 2%
If needed.
if needed. Thank you. I move to support the 2% budget, or the 2% tax increase budget if it is needed. Marguerite Landry in favor. Oh, I need a second, sorry.
I second.
Okay. Marguerite Landry, aye.
Oh, if needed, okay. Wait, this is getting very confusing. I thought if we're voting for each, aren't we going to vote in favor of one and not in
No.
favor of the
No.
other?
We're voting in favor of we voted in favor of the 4, which is what we really want. But we also will take the 2 if we need to, but we're voting against the 0 eventually.
You are.
Okay, but as Sarah is reporting this in the minutes, if we're all voting and the same numbers come up for the 4 and the 2,
Yep.
how is it evident that we want the 4 more than the 2?
Because Sarah said if needed.
If needed, if the town,
All right.
And I know that we want to take a firm stance, but I think I forget who made the point that the town is being put in a very difficult position with needing to adjust budgets and making things affordable for folks.
Right.
So we are thinking of the community when we're voting this way, because
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know,
we don't
not
wanna-
everybody's going to be in a position
Right.
to be able to afford that kind of a
I
tax
mean, I
increase.
know people who, you know, a few weeks ago could afford almost anything they
Right.
wanted to, and they're looking at next month going, I don't know what's happening
Right,
here.
right.
Like, I
So-
know quite a few people who are seriously worried, and, you know, that's a mental health issue. Like
Okay,
that,
so can
you know,
we
to have that-
All right.
can we return?
I'm sorry to
the-
keep
just get it over
interrupting.
with?
I just want to make sure it's clear
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
we're reporting these results to the reader that this is what we want.
All right.
I got it. I got it in the notes.
Okay.
Okay, so who has
right now, we're still voting on the if
2%.
needed.
2% if needed, right?
Yeah.
All, okay, those in favor, Marguerite moved to support a 2% budget increase
If needed.
scenario if needed. In favor,
Aye.
Leslie
It's
had,
actually the 2% tax increase budget.
yeah, tax increase budget. All right.
Stu Butka, if needed.
Yep.
And if needed, if only, if
Right.
needed.
Susan, Beth, are you on
Yes.
board? All right,
2% if needed, yes.
all right. Sarah Micus. All right, we're good.
All right, this will pass. Okay, so I move that we vote to not support the 0%.
Second.
Okay, Marguerite Landry, aye.
Sarah Micus, aye.
Leslie had an eye.
Susan Byer, aye.
Stu Butka, aye.
So the wording is not to support the,
Yes, I move that we not support the 0% tax increase budget.
okay, I'm nay. Beth Dawnbach, nay.
All right. In favor is Leslie Hadden, Sue Butka, Susan Byer, Marguerite, and not in favor is Beth, right?
Yes.
So
Mary,
Beth,
you forgot yourself.
Oh, and myself, I am in favor.
No, Beth is in favor of the same
No,
budget.
she said nay to 0%.
Yep.
that means
Not
that she supports
supporting
the
the
0%.
I support all three of them.
Okay.
So I am
Okay.
not,
All right,
Sorry,
so the motion
okay.
passes. We're good.
not
All right.
supporting.
Got it.
Okay, phew. Is that all you need, Sarah? Do you need anything else?
Now, can we vote on, no, I'm just kidding. We're gonna rename the department. All right,
Oh,
here's my,
that-
I'm just kidding.
Yes, that'll take a while.
No, the only other things is if anybody has any, I can't remember the wording, anything else that would properly come before the board.
Any other business which shall properly come before the board.
Well done.
I
Beth, did you say something?
have a question
Okay.
about campership. I mean, I
Oh.
know under law, we, so far there's no camps, but are people inquiring and what's going to happen to that funding if we can't do it? And do we have any plans to help people who rely on camp for daycare?
A Zoom
So
camp.
Yeah.
So much fun, let me tell you. Children.
Yeah, sounds amazing.
Love it.
So,
do we have to return that funding, that grant, if it
No.
doesn't get used during this fiscal year?
nope. So we're moving,
Go ahead.
okay, sorry, just there's a lag, so I wasn't sure what was happening. So we're moving forward as if camp is happening. I still have no idea if it is or not. I'm pretending that it is, but in my head, I know it's not. So we have been advised through the South Borough Community Fund that we can do what we want with that funding. So it's likely that what we will do is shift it over into emergency funds, should that not happen. So they've given us the right to do what we see best to do with that.
That was a good question. I hadn't even thought of that.
So could it be considered an emergency if people are going back to work and they don't have any childcare? Like,
Yeah.
I think so.
yeah.
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 They basically told us, we're gonna let you guys decide how to spend that money. And I think our stance is we need to remain flexible. So it could, it's like splitting hairs. I agree that, childcare for somebody who has to go back to work is an emergency. And what if it ends up going to something camp-like, then it's also campership. But, Shannon and I have talked about this a little bit. It's really hard to come up with a plan B. We can't really be paying for every kid to go to daycare, or, those are even closed. So we're just trying to remain flexible until we hear otherwise with what to do with that. But the great news is the community fund has said, take that money and do whatever you need to with it.
They're great. They
Good.
really are great.
So the same families that would get assistance in campership could possibly get assistance for a couple weeks of daycare or a babysitter or something.
Yeah, it all depends on
Possible, this is hypothetical.
the opening of daycares. I mean, they're being, they can't open until June something, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're going to be under a lot more, safety requirements. I think the number of children you can take is going to be much smaller. Food prep, all this, it's going to be very challenging. So,
And I think even when the big businesses go back, it's going to be like, my son works for Dell. And I think even when they go back or it opens, it's not everybody's going back to the office again.
I agree. I
If
think
you could work from home before, you're probably gonna work from home. And they can't force their employees back who are parents of kids that need daycare if the daycare is not open. So I think we just don't know, right? It's gonna be different.
yeah.
Same thing, the community fund had also given us some money for training. Fortunately, Megan's trainings went online and she's in a position to be able to do that. Shannon had some funds for training also, but she's, not in a position to continue while she's being chef and teacher and parent and program coordinator. So we're trying to shift those funds over to a different type of training that can be self-paced, and or that money can also roll over into the emergency fund.
Yeah.
We did already take the something special funds that we had and we rolled those over into the emergency fund. But again, the bottom line is that the community fund has said, you're welcome to do we trust you to make the decisions about what's needed. I will report, and I'm sorry I neglected to mention this earlier, but the $25,000 earmark that we received from the state has been spent down. It's kind of a miracle. Everything that we had planned was able to be moved online.
Congratulations.
That's great.
Yes, thank you.
It
Now
is.
comes the reporting part. But we had the suicide prevention trainings available. We still have about 30 of those if anybody's interested in taking it or wants to help us share the
Claire,
information.
That's strictly for Southborough residents, correct?
We've had a couple of because it's also open to teachers and employees.
Okay.
So many town hall employees have taken the training as well as teachers. And then we also had a woman who is the grandmother of a Southborough resident who takes care of her granddaughter quite often, but she's not a Southborough resident. So there's been some loose.
Because I have a friend who's a psychotherapist
Yeah.
who services a lot of Southborough clients.
Yeah.
She lives in Northborough.
Okay.
I didn't know, but she was interested in signing up.
Oh, really? She
I
probably.
I can email
in her
you
line
the-
of work. In her line of work, I don't think she'll learn anything new from it. But she's,
Okay.
Tell her to reach out to me if she
Okay.
wants to. This is
Okay.
really intended to be for people who are not in the field, for
Okay.
the general public.
And thank you for making us aware of those programs too.
Sure. We've been trying to not bombard you with emails, but we also had the parent workshops were paid for through that earmark, which has been very successful. I think we had Alex Korb, who's a neuroscientist, who came to talk about using neuroscience to decrease stress. Which was also interesting and great to have him. He's in California, so we had to calculate the time difference and all of that with him. Trying to remember what else we've done, but we continue to be able to offer programming through grants. At this point, our grant funding is being depleted, so pretty soon it's going to be the Sarah, Megan, and Shannon show, and everything we offer will be the three of us, because because we don't have any money to hire other people to help with what we do. And the town for the current fiscal year has approved all discretionary funding. So we are being advised to avoid spending if we can help it.
Sarah, one other thing about that, it was wonderful to get the state money, but I think looking ahead,
Mhm.
I'm not sure if the state funding is going to be as generous for a couple of years henceforward because of for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And it's too bad, but there it is, I think, just part of reality now.
Yeah.
And because we don't know what the federal government's going to do, right? We have no idea
None.
what the administration is going to give each state for funding. So
Yeah, it's tighten your belt time, I guess.
yep.
Well, you're supposed to, the powers to be said that we can just all go bankrupt.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's
Let's
nice.
do that.
I
Okay.
think that's a great idea. That's a good safety net for everyone.
All
This
right.
is like a therapy session.
Yeah, it is. It's been good to see
So nice
everybody
to see you
again,
all.
really. Yeah.
On that note, is there any other business that we need to discuss right now? We can plan to have another one of these in the near future.
Oh, I just wanted to say, this is an FYI. I know people have been asking about how they can donate. The Red Cross is begging people for donations, blood donations. So if you, and not everybody likes to do that, I can understand it, but if people are really looking for something to donate, get a free donut out of it probably.
You go for that, Susan.
Give a unit of blood and they need it desperately. So
Susan, where's the closest place? Do you go someplace in particular or?
there's one in Framingham. As a matter of fact, they used at Framingham Union Hospital, they have a blood bank over there.
Are you still working, Susan, at all? Or
I have not worked for 2 months. I'm going crazy, but I haven't. My boss has told me that they are tentatively going to start doing non-emergent surgeries on May 18th.
oh,
It's nothing written in sand, but they're hopefully they'll be able to start doing them on May 18th. So, but they do have an urgent need for blood donations. So,
Good to know.
it's not our department, but just
Yeah.
pass it
Well,
on.
you know what, I think we'd be happy to, I don't think we can put it in the mailer, but I think that we can be creative and try to find some other ways to share that information. Maybe we'll partner, the Board of Health has a new nurse, Leslie Chamberlain, who was sharing her time between the senior center and the Board of Health, is now just with the senior center part-time. And so there's a new Board of Health nurse, Emily Amico, in the Board of Health. Maybe we can make the suggestion to share that information with the community.
that's a great idea.
Yes.
Thank you, Susan. Thanks for adding.
You're welcome. I think in this all this COVID stuff, people forget that there are other patients with other problems. And
Well,
Yeah,
they
right.
the COVID patients actually do use units of blood and stuff, and the plasma and white blood cell or red blood cells, platelets, things like that. So I think that any way we can support our healthcare providers and people in need. So that's a great idea. I was thinking maybe for our next meeting, kind of to think out the timeline a little bit. I know that, there are so many unknowns, but perhaps we can all bring to the table ideas of how, ways that we can reach out to the community or anticipate maybe some needs instead of just be reactive. So just something to keep in mind. And I mean, in many cases, we just don't know, which makes it hard to plan anything these days. But, kind of thinking out, what will post pandemic, or if this continues over the summer, how can we be best there for our community? So, all right.
Sounds good.
All right.
Okay, it was wonderful to see everybody.
Oh, yes.
Great to see.
When our next
A motion to close the meeting?
Right.
Oh, Beth, did you say
I
something?
asked a question, Sarah said something about next meeting, so are we going to get back on schedule? Can we go back to Tuesday evenings, or are we just
We
gonna take it
could.
as it goes, or?
Does that
We
work? for
could.
you,
It was
Sarah?
only just recently that we were approved. It was urgent meetings only, and now it's possible for us to meet as a board. The challenge is availability of everybody. For me personally, that's a harder time frame.
I agree. I think people with kids, that's just not a good time if they're in the house with you. So I think we should go with, I like this time slot. I don't know.
Okay.
Well, Natal works, so I mean, I think
Mhm.
that's why she's not here right
Yeah.
now.
Right.
Oh,
Well, why don't we not set it yet? And let's see what happens about the 18th open up date or partial open up date.
Sure.
And then pick a time. I'm very flexible, so whatever works for the rest of you.
But we'll make sure it stays on the radar so that we don't just not schedule something.
Right.
Does that sound
Sounds good.
comfortable to everybody?
That sounds great.
Yeah.
right.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second,
Sarah approves. All right.
Bye.
Vodka.
See you
Take care,
guys later.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye,
Hi, everybody.
everybody.
Thank you. Melissa, thank you for your assistance today.